Today we're going to talk about two very interesting things. One, we're going to talk about Einstein a little bit. And two, we're going to talk about NASA, specifically Apollo 11. Everybody knows what Apollo 11. So I call it Einstein versus Apollo 11, NASA. So I think everybody knows about the moon landing, so we're going to cover it pretty quick, and I'm going to get into the specifics so that I can argue my case. Because right now there's two stories. There's the NASA version of events, and then there's the version according to Einstein and his theory of relativity, which is well proven. The theory of relativity is a solid scientific argument, theory, fact, proven, tested for 100 years. Apollo 11, it's been over 50 years. There are many theories on whether there was a moon landing. Today I'm going to show, using science, that the moon landing is in fact, should be questioned. And so let's go over that. Moon landing. When was the moon landing? Well, Apollo 11 had 3 astronauts: Neil Armstrong, who was the commander. It had Buzz Aldrin, who was the pilot for the lunar module. And we have Michael Collins, who was the pilot for command module. Okay, let's get the basics down. So you got 3 astronauts, Apollo 11. They went to the moon on July 16, his launch. They got to the moon on the 2021, that's your landing. And then they came back on July 24, right? Which is splash. So you got these 3 aspects. So the mission was 8 days. Okay? This is verified by the landing, it's verified by the launch. These are the astronauts. Now, when they got to the moon, here is my moon. Pock marks. Okay, here's my moon. Here is number 1 and number 2. And the lunar module, this is the Eagle. What was it called? The Eagle. The Eagle has landed. Eagle, remember that? Eagle has landed. So that was the name of the module. So they land here on the surface on July 20. On July 21, so they're sitting there for about 6 hours inside the module on July 21. They walk on surface, and they're on the surface. So first, Armstrong, and then 19 minutes later was Aldrin. Collins stayed up here, right, in the spaceship. So Collins is here. These are the two astronauts. Collins is here, apparently. So we have this 6 hours. They walk around the surface about 2.25 hours. Right? In total, they're on surface a total of about 21.5 hours. Okay? This is important. So the Eagle landed. They do all their preparation work. They walk on the surface. They take 8 hours of sleep. The distance here to here is about 2.5 hours. So there's a lot of time, right? They're descending. They prep, they walk, they sleep, they eat, and then they fly back. All of that process is about 21.5 hours, right, on surface of moon. Now, why is this important? Why are we talking about this today? Well, because of Einstein. See, if Einstein was here, he would question the landing on the moon. Here is why. It has to do with gravity. Okay? Because gravity affects time. How so? Well, when it comes to gravity, according to Einstein's theory, if you have a weak field, right, time is fast. And so that's low gravity. Low gravity, weak gravity. If you have a strong field, time is slow, or it's strong gravity. Okay? So this is why Einstein looks at this and he says, well, wait a minute. The gravity on, so this is the moon, and this is Earth, right? This is Earth. This is our moon. So wait a minute. Einstein says, look, the gravity. What's the gravity of the moon? 1.62 meters per second squared. What's the gravity on the Earth? Well, the Earth is a lot stronger. 9.81 meters per second squared. Right? And I think we all, this is all common sense. 1/6. The moon is 1/6 the gravity. So Einstein says that gravity waves affect space-time. Okay? Changes the flow of time. Okay? You guys following me here? So what happens when you're on the moon is something called gravitational time dilation. What? The flow of time changes. So, how do we figure out how much time flows? Because we have a planet. Okay, this is your planet. This is Earth. It's a little warped, and this is the moon. So now the gravity here is 9.8. Let's say round down 1.6. So we know, according to Einstein, time is slower here, and time is faster. So how much faster does time flow on the moon? Well, what do we know? We know that the moon goes around the Earth every 27.5 days, right? Orbit. Every 27.5 days it goes around the Earth. And we know that the Earth goes around something called the sun the Earth goes around the sun every 365 days, and the moon adds 2 days to catch up. So the moon takes 29.5 days to circle Earth. Okay? And to circle the Earth, the moon takes 29.5 days. So 1 day on moon is equal to, that's my A, 29.5 days on Earth, right? The moon goes around the Earth. It takes 29.5 days. Meanwhile, the Earth is spinning and it's going around the sun. So a day on the moon is 29.5 days on the Earth. 1 day is equal to 24 hours. So how much is 1 hour on the moon? Right? I'm on 1 hour on the moon. Time is faster on the moon than the Earth. So 1 hour on the moon is, right? It's 20, if you do the math, 29 days, 24 hours in a day, it's 1.23 days on Earth. Right? So what's the issue here? The issue here is that the astronauts spent 25 hours on moon, right? 21.5 hours times 1.23 days is equal to 26.4 days. What are we saying here? We're saying that on the moon, they were there for 21.5 hours. But because time flows faster, on the Earth, 26.4 days elapsed. Now, at first you're saying, well, that doesn't make sense because the Apollo 11 was 8 days, right? July 16 to 24. But they're on the moon 25 hours, and the time elapse is much faster on the moon, right? An hour on the moon is 1.23 days on the Earth. So if I spend 21 hours on the moon, if I spend 21 hours here on the Earth is 26.4 days. Now the issue is that Apollo 11, the entire mission took 8 days. And just the moon landing was 26 days. So that's, right? So they spent 21.5 hours, which is 26.4 days. This is on the moon. This is on the Earth. Now let's say we remove 26.4 days minus 21.5 hours, which is the time elapsed. We would still get 25, let's say rounding down, 25 days. So, and that's just the travel. That's just the time on the surface of the moon. Okay? That's not the launch time. That's not the return time. So what happens is that if you add, so if they came back, let's say July 24, they came back, this is the splashdown. They came back July 24, 1969. If we add 25 days, what do we get? We get August 19, 1969. Right? August 19, they should have come back. They should have returned to Earth. This is what, according to Einstein, if time dilation is true, if gravity has an effect on the flow of time, as per the special relativity, Apollo 11, right? Apollo 11 should have landed, right? Should have landed on August 19th. But they didn't. That's the issue. They didn't land on August 19th. Let's be generous, and let's just say let's say they spent 3 hours on the surface times 1.23 days. That's our calculation, right? 1 hour is 1.23 days. Let's just take the time they spent walking, just to be generous, be really generous and say walking on the surface, time slowed down, and it was 3.7 days. That still would mean that instead of July 24, it would be July 28, 1969. Okay, and being generous, I'm just going to allocate the walking time so that when they're in the capsule, there's no time effect. So being generous, 3.7 days, they should have come back on July 28. So they were 4 days early in the most generous aspect. But if Einstein's theory is true and they splashed down on July 24th, they should have splashed down on August 19th. So the issue with Einstein is, Apollo 11 came back, 25 days early. Or approximately, right? It could be 23, 24, right? But they came back 3 weeks too early. So let's review, okay? Let's review. So they returned July 24, 1969. If true, then, you see I'm using a logic argument. If true, then 1, there was no time dilation. Okay, in other words, the time, right? Time is the same on the moon and time is the same on the earth. 2, there was no gravitational effect. Which is Einstein theory. Einstein theory says that gravity has a gravitational effect on time, the flow of time. 3, if the July 24th landing is to be taken as true, which we take it as true, there's no time dilation, no gravitational effect, and gravity on the moon is equal to the Earth. There's a 1-to-1 ratio. In other words, it's saying, whatever, but we know this is 1.6 and this is 9.8. But according to the July 24th landing, it would have to mean the gravity on the moon is equal to the gravity on the Earth. 4, if July 24th landing is to be taken as true, then Einstein's theory is wrong. Because no gravitational effect. In other words, weak or strong gravity, no effect. That was the theory, right? Weak or strong gravity. What this says is, what the landing says in July 24, because they landed after 8 days and there's no time dilation, is Einstein's theory is wrong. Because there's no gravitational effect. There's no difference between a weak or a strong gravity. So is Einstein wrong? Well, the answer is no. You ask any scientist, his theories have been tested for 100 years, over 100 years. 5, what the landing says is that the moon is equal to the Earth. Or, as I like to say, the moon is Earth. In other words, there is no moon. There is no moon because there's no time dilation effect, right? 8 days. 8 days. Instead of coming back, they should have come August 19, 1969, or thereabouts, right? They're 3 weeks early. This is the problem, according to Einstein. If Einstein was here, and hopefully he would agree with some of my points, the Apollo 11 landed 3 weeks early. Right? Apollo 11 landed 3 weeks early. Because there's no time dilation. There's no gravitational effect. The gravity on the moon is equal to the Earth because the time, remember, they spent 21 hours on the moon, right? And the gravity is 1/6 of Earth. So there should have been a gravitational effect. No gravitational effect. Because the gravity on the moon is equal to the gravity on the Earth if the landing is to be taken as true. Einstein is wrong. And the moon is basically equal to the Earth. The moon is the Earth. There is no moon. What does that mean? Right? If moon is equal to Earth, then we did not leave Earth. Right? B, we did not land on moon. Because no effect. Right? The gravity, the time flow was according to Earth. So we didn't land on the moon, otherwise it would be time dilation. Right? No gravitational effect. If we land on the moon, there's a gravitational effect. There was no gravitational effect, so we didn't land on the moon. So where did we go? So where did Apollo 11 go? Well, A, they could have gone into low Earth orbit. Why? Because same gravity. The time dilation would be negligible. B, they could have gone to the moon, not landed, just orbited. Right? This is the Earth, this is the moon. So they could have, right from here, they could have flown off here, right, in their little capsule, and they could have just went around the moon for 21 hours and then flown back, right, 21.5 hours or something. And then when they signal to come back, so that's option B. Option A is they flew up and just flew around. They just flew around here for a few days, for 8 days. It's just 8 days. 8 days in orbit. So why do we say that? Is because there's no time dilation effect. There's no effect on time. If you've got no effect on time, then you had the time flow was equal to Earth's gravity. Okay? This is my theory. Time flow was equal to Earth's gravity. So you either did not leave Earth. So you flew off and you went into low Earth orbit. Remember 1969, we don't have anything up there. And nobody knows what's going on. So they flew around here in low Earth orbit for seven days, and then they landed. There will still be a big splashdown. 2 is we did not land on the moon. So this is the key word. We did not land on the moon because there's no gravitational effect. And according to time, moon is equal to the Earth. It's the same, right? There's time flow is equal to Earth's gravity. So the Earth they never landed on the moon. So if they didn't land on the moon, the other option is they flew off, they somehow got to the moon, and they went around, right? We did send satellites to the moon. So it's entirely technically possible, without any arguments, if it happened. But it's technically possible. They could have flown there, and they circled around for 21 hours, and then they flew back, splashed down, and that would mean, you know, there was something that happened. The lunar films may not have been taken on the moon, right? But according to time, right? According to time, and this, so this is Apollo 11, July 16 to 24, 8 days. This is Earth's gravity, Earth's time. If on moon, then it would have been July 16 to August 19, right? So it would have been another, 25, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. It would have been like 30 days. It would have been like 30 days. They came back, Apollo 11 came back too early. Apollo 11 came back too early. Therefore, did not land on moon.